In the vast expanse of the Galactic Council's territory, where mighty dragons soar between stars and their roars shake entire solar systems, there exists a truth that every species knows but never speaks aloud. Humans have an inexplicable gift for seeing worth where others see waste, potential where others see failure, and family where others see outcasts. This is the story of Dr. Sarah Chen, a xenobiologist whose stubborn human heart refused to accept that any living being was truly worthless. And of Pip, a dragon so small and seemingly broken that even his own kind had written him off as a genetic mistake. What neither the dragon clans nor the Galactic Council understood was that humans don't just save the lost, they help them discover they were never truly lost at all. Sometimes the smallest dragons cast the longest shadows, and sometimes it takes human eyes to see that what the universe calls worthless might just be priceless. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the viewport of the research vessel Curiosity, watching the debris field of what had once been the Dragon transport ship, Flame's Pride. Twisted metal drifted in the cold vacuum of space, glinting like scattered coins in the light of the nearby star. The distress beacon had gone silent 3 hours ago, but Sarah's instruments still detected faint life signs scattered among the wreckage. "Another Dragon clan dispute," muttered Captain Torres from behind her. "These fire breathers can't seem to go a month without blowing each other to pieces." Sarah didn't respond. She was too busy calibrating her bioscanners, searching for survivors among the cooling debris. The Drachnari were proud, ancient beings who commanded respect throughout the galaxy. Their massive forms could navigate the void of space as easily as atmospheric flight, breathing stellar fire and wielding technology that made human achievements look primitive. But with great power came great arrogance, and their clan feuds were legendary. There, Sarah pointed to a section of hull plating that showed strong life signs. "Something's alive in that wreckage." Captain Torres sighed. "Sarah, we're not equipped for dragon rescue operations. Those things are massive, temperamental, and frankly, they don't much care for humans poking around their business." But Sarah was already suiting up. As the lead xenobiologist for the Terran Research Initiative, she had clearance to investigate any potentially new or endangered species. And something about these readings bothered her. The life signs were too small, too weak to be a full-grown Drachnari. "I'm going to take a closer look," she announced, checking her EVA suit's seals. "Just a quick scan to determine what we're dealing with." 20 minutes later, Sarah was floating through the twisted remains of what had been a cargo hold. Her suit's lights cut through the darkness, revealing ornate metal fixtures designed for beings far larger than herself. Everything was built to dragon scale. Vast, imposing, and utterly alien to human proportions. The life signs were stronger here, coming from behind a collapsed bulkhead. Sarah activated her cutting torch and began working through the debris. As she cleared away chunks of metal and composite materials, a soft whimpering sound reached her through her suit's audio pickups. What she found made her heart skip a beat. Curled up in a makeshift shelter of torn cloth and bent metal was the smallest dragon she had ever seen. No bigger than a large dog, his scales were a dull brown color instead of the brilliant reds, golds, and blues she associated with the Drachnari. One wing hung at an odd angle, clearly broken, and his breathing was shallow and labored. Most shocking of all, he appeared to be just a hatchling, but something about his eyes suggested he might be older than he appeared. "Hello there, little one," Sarah whispered, slowly extending her gloved hand. The dragon's eyes, a startling shade of amber, fixed on her with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. He tried to back away but was too weak to move far. Sarah's scanner confirmed what her eyes already told her. This dragon was severely malnourished, injured, and suffering from exposure to the vacuum. But more puzzling still, his genetic markers were unlike any Drachnari she had encountered. His bone density was different, his scale composition unique, and his proportions all wrong by dragon standards. "Captain Torres, I need immediate medical bay preparation," she called over her comm. "I've got a survivor, but he's in bad shape." "A dragon?" "Sarah, we don't have facilities for... Not a full dragon. Something smaller. Just trust me on this one." Getting the little dragon back to the ship proved challenging. He was too weak to fly, even in zero gravity, and too proud to allow himself to be simply carried like cargo. Sarah finally convinced him to wrap his good wing around her shoulders while she guided them both back to the Curiosity using her EVA thrusters. Once aboard, Sarah established the dragon in her xenobiology lab, which she quickly converted into a makeshift medical facility. The dragon watched her every move with those intelligent amber eyes, flinching whenever she approached, but not actively resisting her care. "I'm going to help you," Sarah said softly as she prepared a nutrient solution. My name is Sarah. Can you understand me? The dragon's response was a barely audible whistle that Sarah's translator interpreted as acknowledgement. His voice, when it came, was small and broken, speaking in the ancient Draknari tongue that Sarah had studied but rarely heard spoken. Why? He asked. Why do you help the worthless one? Sarah's heart clenched at the pain in his voice. You're not worthless. You're hurt and scared, and that's reason enough. Over the next several hours, Sarah worked to stabilize her patient. She set his broken wing using techniques adapted from avian veterinary medicine, provided him with carefully calibrated nutrition suited to his unique physiology, and most importantly, she stayed with him. Every time he stirred or cried out, she was there with a gentle voice and steady presence. As the dragon grew stronger, he began to speak more. His name, he told her, was Pip, a designation given to him by the dragon clans that roughly translated to worthless small thing. He was not a hatchling as Sarah had first assumed, but rather a genetic variant that the dragon community considered defective. While his peers grew to the size of starships, breathing fire that could melt asteroids, Pip had remained small, his flames barely hot enough to light a campfire. The clans were relocating me, Pip explained in halting standard, his pride clearly wounded by the admission, to the rim worlds, where the defective ones are stored. Sarah felt anger flare in her chest. Stored? Like cargo? Better than execution, Pip replied matter-of-factly. The old ways would have demanded my death at hatching. Progress, they call it. As Sarah learned more about Pip's situation, her anger grew. The dragon clans, for all their power and wisdom, had a rigid caste system that left no room for those who didn't fit their narrow definitions of worth. Pip's small size and weak flame made him an embarrassment to his lineage, a reminder that even the mighty Draknari could produce offspring that failed to meet their impossible standards. But as Sarah ran more detailed scans on her patient, she began to notice things that the dragon clans had apparently missed. Pip's brain activity was off the charts, far more complex than even the most intelligent full-size dragons. His bone structure, while smaller, was actually denser and more efficient. And his scales, though lacking the brilliant colors of his kin, had properties that were utterly unique. Pip, Sarah said during one of their conversations, have you ever tried to fly in an atmosphere? Not space, but actual air. The little dragon's eyes dimmed. Many times. I am. Too small, too weak. The others laugh. Sarah smiled. Would you like to try again? I think I might know why you've been having trouble. 3 days later, the Curiosity made orbital approach to New Geneva, a human colony world with Earth-normal atmosphere and gravity. Sarah had spent those days preparing, both equipment and emotionally. She had grown attached to Pip in a way that surprised her. His quiet dignity in the face of rejection, his sharp intelligence, and his gentle nature despite his pain had touched something deep in her human heart. Captain Torres was skeptical, as usual. Sarah, are you sure about this? We could just drop him at the nearest dragon colony world. Let his own kind deal with him. His own kind already dealt with him, Sarah replied firmly. They threw him away. She had received clearance to conduct atmospheric flight tests with Pip, ostensibly as part of her research into dragon physiology. In reality, she hoped to prove a theory that had been forming in her mind as she studied his unique anatomy. The landing pad at New Geneva's research station was bustling with activity as the Curiosity touched down. Sarah had prepared Pip for the transition to full gravity, but she still worried about how his injured wing would handle the stress. As they walked down the ramp together, Pip stayed close to Sarah's side. The little dragon had fashioned a translator device from spare parts in her lab, his mechanical aptitude proving as remarkable as his intelligence. His voice now came through clearly and standard, though he still spoke with the formal cadence of ancient Draknari. Chen, called Director Martinez, the station's administrator. We've prepared the atmospheric flight chamber as requested.
Are you certain your subject is ready for testing? Sarah looked down at Pip, who was staring up at the sky with an expression of wonder and terror.
What do you think, Pip? Ready to show them what you can do? The flight chamber was a massive enclosed space designed for testing atmospheric aircraft. Sarah had requested that the environmental controls be set to replicate the conditions of Draknari homeworlds. Slightly higher gravity and atmospheric density than Earth normal. As they entered the chamber, Pip's anxiety was obvious. His small form was tense, his good wing held close to his body while the recently healed wing twitched nervously. I have tried this before, Sarah, he said quietly. I do not wish to disappoint you as I have disappointed others. Sarah knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his flank. Pip, I need you to trust me. You've been trying to fly the wrong way your entire life. She opened her datapad and showed him the analysis she had been working on. Look at these wing loading calculations. Your wings aren't designed for the same kind of flight as the big dragons. They're built for something else entirely. Pip studied the data, his amber eyes growing bright with interest. These equations, they suggest high speed, high efficiency flight. Sarah finished. Your wings are designed like a racing aircraft, not a cargo hauler. You've been trying to fly like your cousins when you should be flying like you. Sarah had spent hours studying archived footage of dragon flight patterns, comparing them to Pip's anatomy. The larger dragons flew with slow, powerful wing beats, relying on their massive size and strength to overcome atmospheric resistance. But Pip's smaller frame and unique wing structure were optimized for something entirely different. Instead of trying to hover and rise slowly like the others, try a running takeoff. Build up horizontal speed first, then convert it to lift. Like this. Sarah showed him videos of Earth aircraft and birds that use similar techniques. Pip absorbed the information with the quick intelligence she had come to expect from him. After several minutes of discussion and calculation, he moved to the far end of the chamber, positioning himself for a running start. Remember, Sarah called out, it's not about raw power, it's about efficiency and technique. Pip nodded, took a deep breath, and began to run. His gait was awkward at first, unused as he was to using his legs for takeoff rather than just landing. But as he picked up speed, something changed. His movements became fluid, graceful, and when he spread his wings and leaped into the air, Sarah gasped. He didn't just fly, he soared. Pip's small form shot through the chamber like a golden arrow, his wings beating in rapid, precise strokes that generated far more lift than should have been possible for his size. He banked and turned with incredible agility, executing maneuvers that would have been impossible for larger dragons. But more than his technical skill, it was the pure joy on his face that took Sarah's breath away. For the first time since she had found him, Pip was truly free. He was doing what he was born to do, finally understanding what he was meant to be. He flew for nearly an hour, testing his limits and exploring his capabilities. Sarah watched with pride and wonder as the little dragon who had been labeled worthless proved that he was anything but. When he finally landed beside her, his eyes were bright with tears of joy. Sarah, he said, his voice filled with awe. I can fly. I can really fly. You were always meant to fly, Pip. You just needed someone to show you how. As they left the flight chamber, Sarah's mind was already working on the next phase. She had proven that Pip could fly, but she knew that wasn't enough. The dragon clans would need to see what she had seen, understand what they had thrown away. Director Martinez approached them, his expression one of amazement. Dr. Chen, I've never seen anything like that. The speed, the agility, it's remarkable. It is, Sarah agreed, and it's just the beginning. That night, as Pip slept curled up in the corner of her quarters, Sarah worked on her report. She documented everything. Pip's unique physiology, his remarkable intelligence, his incredible flight capabilities. But more than that, she wrote about his courage, his dignity, and his capacity for joy despite all he had suffered. She was about to send the report to the Galactic Council when Pip stirred, his amber eyes opening in the dim light. Sarah, he said softly, why did you save me, truly? Your species has no obligation to mine. Sarah considered her answer carefully. Because every life has value, Pip. Because you deserved a chance to discover who you really are. And because, she smiled, humans have a terrible habit of falling in love with things others call worthless. Pip was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, I would like to stay with you, if you will have me. I have no clan, no family among my people. But perhaps I could be family to you. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. I'd like that very much, Pip. I'd like that very much. As she finally sent her report into the Galactic Network, Sarah had no idea that her simple act of kindness would soon challenge the very foundations of dragon society. She only knew that she had found something precious in the wreckage of that transport ship. Not just a unique dragon, but a friend whose worth could not be measured by the narrow standards of his species. Outside her window, the stars shone bright and eternal, holding secrets and wonders yet to be discovered. And somewhere among those stars, the first responses to her report were already being transmitted. carrying news that would change everything for dragons labeled defective throughout the galaxy. Pip was no longer alone, and neither was Sarah. They had found in each other something that neither species nor clan could provide: unconditional acceptance and the freedom to be exactly who they were meant to be. 6 months after rescuing Pip from the wreckage, Sarah's life had transformed in ways she never expected. The little dragon had not only recovered completely, but had begun displaying abilities that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about the Draknari species. The morning everything changed started like any other. Sarah was in her expanded laboratory aboard the research station New Geneva, running cognitive tests with Pip while he hovered effortlessly near the ceiling, his small form moving with impossible grace through a complex three-dimensional maze she had constructed. "Time," Sarah called out, checking her chronometer. 47 seconds. "That's a new record." Pip descended to perch on her workbench, his amber eyes bright with satisfaction. Over the months, his confidence had grown tremendously. Where once he had spoken in whispers, ashamed of his differences, he now carried himself with quiet dignity and growing self-assurance. "The pattern recognition was quite clear once I identified the underlying mathematical sequence," Pip explained, his translator rendering his formal Draknari into perfect standard. "Though I must admit, the 17-dimensional matrix you embedded in the 20th level was particularly elegant." "Pip, that maze only has 12 dimensions." The little dragon tilted his head, a gesture she had learned indicated confusion. "Sarah, I can see 17 distinct dimensional layers in your construction." "Are you perhaps not aware that you built them?" Before Sarah could respond, her communication console chimed with an urgent priority message. The seal of the Galactic Council appeared on her screen, followed by the imposing holographic form of Councillor Vex Theran, a massive red dragon whose scales gleamed like polished rubies. "Dr. Chen," the dragon's voice rumbled through the lab, "the Council has reviewed your reports regarding the specimen designated as Pip. We require immediate clarification on several points." Sarah straightened, feeling Pip tense beside her. They had both known this day would come. Her detailed reports on Pip's abilities had been causing quite a stir in academic and political circles throughout the galaxy. "Counselor," Sarah replied respectfully, "how may I assist you?" "Your claims regarding this defective dragon's capabilities are unprecedented. The Council questions whether your emotional attachment to the specimen may have compromised your scientific objectivity." The word specimen made Sarah's jaw tighten, but she kept her voice level. "All of my data is available for independent verification, Counselor. Every test has been recorded and documented according to Galactic Research Protocol standards." "Indeed. Which is why the Council is dispatching a review team to conduct their own evaluation. They will arrive within 3 standard days." The hologram flickered and vanished, leaving Sarah and Pip alone with the implications. Sarah had expected this, but it still sent a chill through her. The Dragon clans had immense political power, and if they decided Pip was somehow a threat to their social order, "They will take me away," Pip said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of dragon lore and tradition. "I am clan lost, which makes me property of the Council. They have the right to dispose of me as they see fit, over my dead body," Sarah replied with heat that surprised them both. "Pip, you're not property. You're a sentient being with rights under galactic law. Human rights, perhaps. Dragon law is different." Sarah spent the next 3 days preparing for what she knew would be the fight of her life. She compiled every piece of data, every test result, every moment of recorded interaction with Pip. But more importantly, she reached out to colleagues throughout the galaxy, building a network of support that might help protect her friend when the Council's team arrived. Yuki Tanaka from the Xenopsychology Institute was the first to respond, offering her expertise in interspecies consciousness studies. Professor Ahmed Hassan from the Applied Physics Consortium provided theoretical backing for some of Pip's more unusual abilities. Most surprisingly, Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Defense Force sent a message expressing personal interest in the case, though she was deliberately vague about her reasons. When the Council's review team arrived, it was more intimidating than Sarah had anticipated. 3 full-size dragons landed at the research station, their forms so massive that the facility's landing pad had to be reinforced to accommodate them. Leading the group was Elder Korthmuk, an ancient bronze dragon whose scales bore the patina of millennia. His companions were Flamesinger Ystera, a brilliant blue female whose specialty was dragon genetics, and Battlewing Vorthak, a silver-scaled male whose role seemed primarily to intimidate. Sarah met them in the station's main conference room, with Pip perched on her shoulder in a gesture of mutual support. The contrast in size was almost comical. The three massive dragons barely fit in the human-scaled space, while Pip looked like an exotic pet by comparison. "So," Elder Korthmak rumbled, his ancient voice carrying the weight of authority, "this is the defective hatchling that has caused such disruption." "This is Pip," Sarah corrected firmly, "a unique individual whose capabilities your clans failed to recognize." Dr. Chen, flame singer Ystera, interjected, her melodious voice carrying a hint of condescension. "We appreciate your emotional investment in this specimen, but you must understand that we have studied dragon genetics for thousands of years. We know our own kind." "With respect," Sarah replied, activating a holographic display system, "your knowledge appears to have some significant gaps." What followed was the most important presentation of Sarah's career. She walked the Dragon Review team through every test, every discovery, every piece of evidence that proved Pip was not defective but differently evolved. She showed them his incredible flight agility, his problem-solving abilities that far exceeded normal dragon parameters, and most importantly, his capacity for dimensional perception that even she was still struggling to understand. The dragons watched in silence as Sarah presented video after video of Pip navigating complex mathematical puzzles, solving engineering problems that stumped her best computers, and demonstrating spatial awareness that bordered on precognitive. When she showed them footage of Pip's flight patterns, analyzed down to the micro-movements of individual wing scales, even Battlewing Vorthak leaned forward with interest. "These maneuvers," the Silver Dragon admitted grudgingly, "they are unusual. I have never seen such precision in atmospheric flight." "Because you've never seen a dragon built for it?" Sarah explained. "Pip isn't defective. He's specialized. While your dragons are designed for power and endurance, Pip is designed for speed, agility, and precision. He's not a failed version of what you are. He's something entirely new." Elder Korthmak's ancient eyes narrowed. "Even if we accept your analysis, Dr. Predacti, Chen, this changes nothing. The specimen has no clan, no lineage, no place in dragon society. Our laws are clear. Then your laws are wrong." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah felt Pip tense on her shoulder, but she pressed on, knowing this might be their only chance. "You're so focused on what Pip can't do that you're blind to what he can do. You've created a society that wastes incredible potential because it doesn't fit your narrow definitions of worth. How many dragons like Pip have you discarded over the millennia? How much have you lost? You dare question thousands of years of dragon lore?" Battlewing Vorthak rose to his full height, his silver scales crackling with energy. "I dare question any law that treats sentient beings as disposable," Sarah shot back. "Pip is not your property. He's not your mistake to hide or your problem to solve. He's a living being with rights, dignity, and worth that exists independent of your approval." Flamesinger Ystera studied the data streams flowing around them, her blue scales shifting as she processed information. "Dr. Chen, these genetic markers you've identified, they're not entirely unknown to us. There are references in the oldest archives, legends of dragon variants that appeared in ancient times." "Legends?" Sarah pounced on the opening. "Or historical records that were reclassified as myths because they didn't fit your social structure?" The female dragon was quiet for a long moment. "There are stories of dragons who could walk between dimensions, who saw time as a navigable river rather than a flowing stream. They were called the Star-Touched, and they were said to be bridges between what was and what could be. Myths and legends," Elder Korthmak said dismissively, but there was something in his ancient eyes that suggested uncertainty. Sarah felt Pip shift on her shoulder, and when he spoke, his voice carried a new quality, deeper, more resonant, as if he were speaking with the authority of ages.
"Elder Korthmak," Pip said, "using formal dragon address protocols. With respect, I am not a myth." As he spoke, something extraordinary happened.
The air around Pip began to shimmer, and for just a moment, Sarah could swear she saw multiple versions of him superimposed on each other, some larger, some smaller, some with different colored scales. The dimensional layers she couldn't normally perceive seemed to fold and bend around the little dragon. "I see the paths," Pip continued, his voice growing stronger. "I see the choice streams that flow from this moment. In most of them, you take me away, and nothing changes. Your clans continue to waste potential, to discard those who don't fit your molds. But in a few, something new begins." The shimmer faded, but the impact of what they had witnessed remained. Even Elder Korthmake looked shaken, his bronze scales dulled with something that might have been awe or fear. "Impossible," he whispered. "The star-touched are extinct. They have been for millennia." Perhaps," Pip replied gently. "They were never extinct. Perhaps they were simply called worthless and thrown away." In the days that followed, the review team conducted their own tests. Sarah watched nervously as they put Pip through increasingly complex challenges, probing the limits of his abilities. But her worry began to transform into pride, as Pip not only met every challenge, but exceeded their expectations at every turn. The breakthrough came when Flamesinger Estera presented Pip with a puzzle that had stumped dragon scholars for centuries, a multi-dimensional mathematical construct that was believed to be unsolvable. Pip studied it for less than 10 minutes before providing not just one solution, but 17 different approaches, each more elegant than the last. "How?" Estera asked, her voice filled with wonder. "I can see the spaces between the equations," Pip explained patiently, "the dimensions where the normal rules become flexible. It's not that the puzzle is unsolvable, it's that you've been trying to solve it in too few dimensions." That evening, Sarah found Elder Korthmake alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars with an expression she had never seen on a dragon's face. Uncertainty mixed with something that might have been hope. "Chen," he said without turning around, "in all my millennia of existence, I have never been so thoroughly wrong about something so important." "We all make mistakes, Elder. The question is what we do about them." "Indeed." The ancient dragon was quiet for a moment. "Tell me, what do you see when you look at him?"
Sarah considered her answer carefully.
"I see someone who refused to let others define his worth, someone who found the strength to soar despite being told he was meant to crawl. I see family." Korthmake turned his massive head to regard her. "Family. Yes, I can see that bond. It radiates from both of you." He was quiet for another moment. "Dr. Chen, the council will need to see this for themselves. All of it. Are you prepared for what that might mean?" "What do you mean?" "If Pip truly is what we now believe him to be, a star-touched dragon, a living bridge between dimensions, then everything changes. Our understanding of dragon evolution, our social structures, our place in the galaxy. There will be those who see him as a threat to everything they believe." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the recycled air of the space station. And there will be those who see him as something else entirely, something to be studied, controlled, or used. Korthmake's ancient eyes met hers. "You have awakened forces that have slept for millennia, Dr. Chen. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for what Pip represents. Answer." As if summoned by their conversation, Pip appeared in the doorway, his small form silhouetted against the light from the corridor. "Sarah," he said softly, "I've been monitoring the galactic communication networks. The reports about me are spreading. There are responses coming in from across the galaxy." "What kind of responses?" Sarah asked, though she was afraid she already knew. "Many kinds. Some dragons are calling for my immediate return to clan custody. Others are demanding independent verification of the test results." But Pip paused, his amber eyes bright with something between excitement and fear. "There are also messages from dragons who claim to be like me. Dragons who have been hiding their abilities for fear of being labeled defective." Sarah felt her heart race. "How many?" "Oh, so far 47 confirmed contacts, but the number is growing." Elder Korthmake made a sound deep in his throat that might have been a chuckle or a growl. "Chen, it appears your act of kindness has lit a fire that may reshape the galaxy.